Okay, so the big question everyone's asking about AI, will it take our jobs? Or maybe just, augment them, make us better? Or is there something else going on? Today, we're taking a deep dive into AI's impact, specifically focusing on radiology. And we want to go beyond that typical replace or augment debate. We're asking a tougher question, maybe a more uncomfortable one. Cui bono? Who really benefits? When AI brings these huge productivity gains, like in radiology, where does that value actually, end up?
Right. And our main guide for this is a really interesting commentary, AI Will Not Benefit, rad.pdf. It's by Heathcote, Ruthven, and Christoph Agten, published in the European Journal of Radiology Artificial Intelligence. It basically pulls together their LinkedIn discussions, and it offers a pretty specific viewpoint. It definitely challenges some common ideas about AI in medicine.
So, get ready. We're going to unpack some, surprising facts, I think, and hopefully you'll get a clearer picture of what these big shifts could mean, not just for radiologists, but maybe for a lot of professional work down the line. So for a while, the whole AI and radiology discussion was pretty split, wasn't it? Kind of two main camps. You had the optimists, the augmentation folks who thought AI would just handle the grunt work, the routine stuff, freeing up radiologists for the complex cases, the interventions, the human touch, that kind of thing. And their big line, you heard it everywhere, was from Dr. Curtis Langlotz. He said, AI won't replace radiologists, but radiologists who use AI will replace those who don't. Sort of painted AI as this helpful autopilot, right? Reducing burnout, clearing backlogs. Sounded pretty good, honestly.
It did sound reassuring. But then you had Jeffrey Hinton, the quote-unquote godfather of AI, with a much starker take back in 2016. He had that really vivid image. Radiologists are like the coyote that's already over the edge of the cliff but hasn't yet looked down. He literally said people should stop training radiologists now. Pretty blunt.
Wow. Yeah, and that definitely made waves. I remember a 2018 survey. It found 44% of U.S. medical students actually said AI made radiology seem less appealing as a career. That's significant.
It is. But, it's interesting because Hinton's big prediction back then that AI would beat radiologists within 5 years. It didn't actually happen. Integrating AI turned out to be way harder than people thought. The tools cost a lot. They didn't slot easily into existing hospital systems. And frankly, there was just a lack of trust. Still is, to some extent. But 2021, something like 99% of AI tools still needed a human to sign off.
Huh. So despite Hinton screaming the sky is falling, U.S. radiology residency applications actually hit a 9-year high in 2019. That seems counterintuitive. People were still flocking to the field. Maybe they bought the augmentation story or just weren't convinced by the doomsaying.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And Hinton himself, well, by 2025, he'd softened his stance a bit. He told the New York Times he spoke too broadly, was really just talking about image analysis. His newer take is that AI will make radiologists more efficient, more accurate. Which sounds okay, but it kind of neatly sidesteps that core question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What does more efficient really mean for their careers, their paychecks in the long run?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? So Hinton's dire prediction didn't quite materialize immediately. Applications stayed high. So if it's not about immediate replacement, why is all this AI money and attention pouring into radiology specifically? What's the big draw for the tech firms and the investors?
Well, what they see is, frankly, a huge market. And crucially, one with lots and lots of high-quality data, the images. Radiology is sort of the perfect storm for AI development. Think about this. By December 2024, 76%, three-quarters, of all FDA-cleared AI medical apps were for radiology. It's the absolute hotspot.
And that connects directly to what's happening in healthcare generally, right? Aging populations, more chronic disease, imaging itself getting cheaper. It all means more scans, just way more scans. The demand is just going through the roof.
Exactly. And that demand bumps up against another problem, radiologist shortages. They already exist. The UK, for instance, is looking at maybe a 40% shortfall in consultants by 2028. The US predicts a gap of, 122,000 radiologists by 2032?
Yeah.
So when you have that kind of scarcity of expensive, highly skilled labor, automation starts looking really, really attractive to the people paying the bills.
Okay, so that explains the intense interest. Massive market, tons of data, existing labor shortages. Makes sense. But here's where the article we mentioned really twists the narrative. The common assumption might be, okay, AI boosts productivity, radiologists benefit, right? Less burnout, maybe more focus on interesting cases. But this commentary argues, no, that's not where the benefit is likely to flow.
Right. It makes a really crucial economic point. Once AI can reliably do the reporting bit, accurately, maybe even better than humans, practices suddenly have the ability to slash their single biggest cost. Radiologists' salaries The incentive flips.
Yeah, they give this really striking example from Sweden, a national breast cancer screening program. They found AI could safely take the place of one of the two human readers they typically used. It cut the workload by 44%. Think about that. One radiologist plus AI does the work of two.
And the implication there is pretty stark. Once AI consistently hits or beats human accuracy across more areas, you simply won't need as many radiologists to read the same number of scans. And here's the kicker. These staffing decisions. Increasingly, they aren't being made by the radiologists themselves. It's department heads, practice owners, and more and more it's private equity firms. They're buying up practices.
And there's hard data on that shift, isn't there? In the U.S., radiologist ownership in practices dropped from like 63% down to 46% between 2012 and 2024. And in that same time frame, private equity ownership, it jumped from basically nothing, 1%, up to 13%. That's a huge change in who's actually running the show and, deciding where the money goes. So this whole dynamic technology boosts output, but the workers don't necessarily see the rewards.
This isn't entirely new, is it? It sounds like a pattern we've seen before with automation.
Exactly. Dr. Amin Korchi, who's both a radiologist and an investor, made a good point. Technology doesn't kill professions, it reshapes them. And that's true. But economist James Besson, who was actually involved in launching desktop publishing in the 80s, shows how that reshaping often means the rewards get distributed very unevenly. Right. Besson uses the example of typesetting, the old hot metal way of setting type. When software automated that, you'd think typesetters lost out, right? But actually, employment for graphic designers exploded. It grew over 4 times between 1979 and 2007 because of desktop publishing. But, and this is the key part, those designers needed significant retraining, and their average pay didn't really go up. Experience didn't count for as much because the tech kept changing so fast. Most of the financial gains went to the employers, the companies, and maybe a few really quick learners.
Yeah. And that fits a broader economic idea. Automation is most appealing, most profitable, when the labor it might replace is scarce and expensive like radiologists. But once it's implemented, it tends to reduce labor's overall share of the economic pie it helps create. Economists Acemoglu and Restrepo call it the displacement effect. Automation increases the total pie, sure, but labor gets a smaller slice because capital is doing tasks humans used to do.
Besson illustrates this with that inverted U-curve using the U.S. textile industry. It's a great illustration. First, the boom phase, roughly 1800 to 1920. A weaver in 1900 could make 50 times more cloth than one in 1800 because of machines. Cloth got way cheaper, so demand just soared. People wanted more clothes. And it actually created 4 times more weaving jobs during that period. But then came the bust phase after 1920 or so. People basically had enough clothes, demand leveled off. Even though each worker kept getting more productive, like 3% more productive every year, demand didn't keep pace. So employers started cutting jobs because the machines were just too good, basically. They didn't need as many people.
So the big question this raises for radiology is, could it be heading towards the downward slope of that U? Think about past innovations, CT scans, PACS for digital images, voice recognition software. They all boosted productivity, definitely. But they never boosted it so much that it outstripped the rising demand for a radiologist's expertise. Is AI different? Is it a step change?
That's the crucial question. So where do AI capabilities actually stand right now? Are they really performing at radiologist level?
In some specific areas, yes, increasingly so. We've seen some pretty compelling studies just in the last year or so. For breast cancer screening, a big South Korean trial found AI-assisted reads caught 13.8% more cancers than radiologists alone. For musculoskeletal x-rays, like bones and joints, a Finnish study showed 2 AI algorithms performed on par with expert MSK radiologists, about 89% accuracy. And maybe most telling for workflow, a DeepMind study looked at AI generating chest x-ray reports. 75% of radiologists prefer the AI reports or found them just as good as expert human reports.
Okay, wow. So if the AI is getting that good and potentially, as you said, increasing productivity by orders of magnitude, what does that actually mean for the day-to-day job? It seems like practices would logically need fewer people, right? And the work itself must change.
That seems to be the logical conclusion, yes. Fewer radiologists needed for the same volume. And the nature of the work shifts. Less primary, deep interpretation of complex images from scratch. More reviewing AI outputs, confirming findings, maybe handling the edge cases the AI flags. It becomes more oversight, less origination. Now, certain things will likely stay human-centric. Performing biopsies, physically intervening, talking directly with patients. Those require skills AI doesn't have. So radiology as a field won't disappear. But the core tasks, the value proposition, how it's perceived, That's likely to change significantly, which, as you said, creates opportunities for some, sure, but could mean less autonomy, lower status, maybe lower income for others.
Right. So given this potential future, radiologists obviously can't stop AI development. But the article suggests they can, and probably should, prepare a plan B. What does that look like?
Absolutely. The commentary talks about a few strategies. One is seeking equity, becoming a partner or owner in a practice, so you share in the productivity gains, not just provide the labor. Another is moving sideways, maybe into education or working for the AI vendors themselves in industry roles. Or shifting your clinical practice towards procedures, interventions, or highly specialized areas less likely to be automated soon.
So for younger radiologists coming up, the message seems to be don't just learn to use the AI tools. Think strategically about your skill set, maybe build other income streams, look beyond just reading scans.
Exactly. And for those perhaps later in their careers, maybe the focus is more on securing roles that are harder to automate, the procedural side perhaps, or even consciously reducing clinical hours on their own terms, planning a transition. It brings us back to that Langlotz quote. Radiologists who use AI will replace those who don't. That's probably true to an extent. But the article's core argument is that for employed radiologists, the bigger threat isn't being replaced by a colleague using AI. It's that the demand for their labor decreases overall due to AI efficiency gains captured by employers, potentially leading to lower compensation. The ones who remain will do different work, yes, but there's absolutely no guarantee employers will value or pay for that new work in the same way. So the central point, really, just to reiterate, is that the employers, the private equity owners, the AI companies themselves, they are the ones best positioned to capture most of the financial upside from these AI productivity boosts. Employed radiologists, as things stand, likely won't see much of that benefit trickle down.
It's a pretty stark perspective. Essentially, without a fundamental shift in how that value gets shared, increased productivity could actually come at the direct expense of the skilled professionals still doing the work, even if that work looks different.
So maybe the thought to leave you with is this. If this is the potential dynamic in radiology, how might this play out in other fields you know? Other professions where AI is making inroads? What does this pattern where capital potentially captures the gains from automation suggest about the future of work? Well, for everyone.